74 đồng 70 cent mỗi tháng cho Medicare phần B. Gọi 1866 610 0655 để tham khảo.
If you want to know who someone cares about, look who they fight for. Donald Trump plans to give billionaires massive tax cuts and cut corporate taxes by over $1 trillion, even as they pull in record profits. I will fight to give money back to working and middle-class Americans. More than 100 million Americans will get a tax cut, letting you keep more of your hard-earned money.
We shall still.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bill Jensen, and you're watching The Strike Zone with VBS Broadcasting Systems. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to lead off tonight with the fact that there are only 13 days left to vote until November the 5th. And about 17,000 people showed up at a Trump rally this morning, and you would be interested in knowing that the tide seems to be shifting in favor to a degree that maybe we might be able to swamp the vote after all. I'm going to cover several subjects. I'm going to jump kind of to headline news and try to address a couple of items and move quickly along through here. But Charlie Kirk in the Turning Point has identified that 13 days left to vote with Sergio Gore. And Trump, Sergio Gore is in charge of the Trump Super PAC. And it's only about 8 months old. They'd raised about $70 million. And they've gone in to help President Trump promote those issues such as no tax on tips or overtime. Now there's a new twist on overtime. And that would also include Social Security. So there's three right there. That, given the fact that we're looking at an income disparity, could take the edge off across the scale, but we still need to increase the job opportunities and reemployment that is going to be required, and that will come quickly, I believe, as industry takes faith in a new president. But Sergio said that in that super PAC, they wanted to be sure to identify to Americans that the Biden-Harris administration had allowed 13,000 convicted murderers into our American communities, and that an additional 15,811 rapists are living in our communities, and they've been basically turned loose into this country, and those are just the ones we know of. And this open border policy is responsible for that, and we have at least this much information that we can pass along to you. Additionally, Sergio Gore wanted to emphasize the fact that if you get a chance, please go to the internet and locate 45books.com, and you may be able to raise some awareness and educate yourself as to some of the issues that are involved here. In some of the headline news, Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii has now announced that she has officially joined the Republican Party. Now, Tulsi Gabbard is former military, lived in Hawaii, Democratic stronghold, and she has come to the Republican camp and basically taken side with President Trump against Nancy Pelosi and the rest of these folks who have just conspired to overthrow a country. Something that she took the same oath that I did, that said that we would defend this country from enemies both foreign and domestic. Georgia has cleared hundreds of non-citizens from their voter rolls and just found 20 more on top of that. So Georgia is working hard to try to see that we get a fair election. At least some of the people over there are. And to continue in Georgia, the Supreme Court has rejected a hand count of all votes on November the 5th. Now, why would the Supreme Court of Georgia deny the right to hand count all votes on November the 5th? It's done around the world. Doesn't seem to be a problem. So people in Georgia should just trust the voting machines? Nothing to see here. Keep moving, people. Keep moving. Nothing to see here. No, we're not going to count votes. We're going to trust the voting machines. Because after all, they're not hooked up to the internet, right? Hockey sticks. Those things were hacked from China to Russia. And if you ever watched 2000 Mules and you saw some of the other intelligence reports that came in on how badly they were hacked, you would take them and burn them before you would trust them. Additionally, in Ohio, 6 people were indicted in Ohio for voter fraud. We'll do more to bring you information about that. In the USA, there are families that are seeking a $50 billion from China in tariffs for fentanyl overdoses. Now, there's a concept. President Trump said if you're going to use slave labor to make products for Walmart, automobiles, whatever it is you want to bring into this country, we're going to hit you with a tariff. If we're going to hit you with a tariff for importing goods, then why not hit you for the tariff if we know that the fentanyl ingredients are coming from China to Mexico? They're being mixed in Mexico and then being brought into the United States and now have killed approximately 300,000 people in the USA. That's 6 times damn near the number of people that were killed in Vietnam. And most of these people are going to range in what? Ages from 16, 18 years old to 35 years old. Ladies and gentlemen, if you take the high strength of fentanyl and a bathtub full of water, I want you to imagine just tearing open 2 packets of sweetener and pouring it into a bathtub and now having to mix that entire bathtub full of water perfectly, so that none of this material clumps together, concentrates, settles out wrong, and reconcentrates. It has to be mixed perfectly to make the amount of fentanyl that would come out of a bathtub. If you miss that mark on that mix, you are dead. You will absolutely not be able to breathe, move. You're done. The criticality of making these drugs is not done in a scientific laboratory in Mexico. It's mixed in somebody's bathtub. It's mixed in a 50-gallon drum. It's concentrated. It's made just like you've seen the jungles making cocaine out of coca leaf down in Colombia. So that particular pharmaceutical now has trickled into other drugs that are coming across the border. So some kids could be taking a red one, a blue one, a green one, a purple one, and if it's laced with fentanyl and the concentrates are wrong, they don't have a chance. You've seen pictures and videos of police having opened a vehicle where the fentanyl has just off-gassed and vaporized inside of a hot vehicle, and it was enough to take an officer down. Injected with 2 pins, that officer was lucky to be able to breathe long enough to get to triage and to get hospitalization that was required. So the fentanyl being tariffed or creating a tariff on China to fund the families that have lost 300,000 moms, dads, kids, uncles, aunts, nieces, nephews. If that could be implemented, what does China react to the most? Money. If you're going to tariff everything that they own to pay off all of these families, then you're going to sting somebody at some level. $50 billion, it's a drop in the bucket, but it might begin to bring the message home. But wouldn't it be better if we just closed the border? All we have to do is go back to Donald Trump's policies and close the border, and the fentanyl wouldn't come through the border in the first place. You're going to hear more about that in just a minute with regard to a report from O'Keefe. Let's move along to Trump. Prosecutors are objecting to a new judge being assigned to the Trump assassination case. That's interesting, and we're going to do our best to bring you more information on that one. Why would you be wanting to switch the judge on an assassination case halfway through? Let's go to the courts and talk about the fact that immigration courts have now broken the records in 2024. Duh. You think? I'm surprised the courts have got room for any of us to do any business whatsoever anywhere, with the overflow that's been pushing judges into working extra shifts and every crew that it takes just to handle the criminals, not to mention the regular immigration and processing, which seems to be non-existent as you're handed your package, ushered to a bus or an airplane, and flown directly into Colorado or New York or wherever ports might be opened. Moving along to Washington, D.C., Rubio calls on the Department of Justice to investigate domestic Hamas support groups and label them as domestic terrorists. Now, if I'm in the United States and I'm raising money for Hamas, considering everything that's going on in Israel and the number of attacks that Hamas has been responsible for, I would venture to say that you're probably a domestic terrorist. Not the mom, not the dad, at the school board objecting to their kids being indoctrinated for transgender everything, or being called a cat or a furry pet or some other name and given a bathroom for furry pets. Yeah, no, you're a domestic terrorist if you object to that at a school board. But we're having a hard time declaring, we have to go through Congress to declare that groups that are collecting money for Hamas in the United States are domestic terrorists. Ladies and gentlemen, this country is sick and something is broken. Moving along with Trump here, Trump has trashed Obama as a jerk who divides the country while Obama's been out campaigning for Harris. That's pretty funny. Now that the polls show Trump ahead, the fake news media are now saying that the polls are all wrong. Ha! Imagine that. The polls are all wrong all of a sudden when Trump takes the lead. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bill Jensen. You're in the strike zone. This is VBS Broadcasting. Ladies and gentlemen, VBS Television Network is pleased to announce a new and exciting English language daily live news program which will commence on November the 1st, 2024, if not sooner. The programs will broadcast live each weekday, Monday through Friday at prime time from 6 p.m. to midnight from VBS Studios located in Orange County, California. VBS broadcasts through 12 connected digital systems: YouTube, Facebook, Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon TV, Sony Smart TV, LG Smart TV, Samsung Smart TV, Google Play, Apple Store, and VBSTelevision.com. VBS also broadcasts throughout the entire state of California through 3 free-to-air channels, including KJLA 57.6 in Southern California, KSCZ 16.14 in San Jose, and KMMC 30.6 in San Francisco. VBS broadcasts 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. We look forward to bringing you important, timely news coverage and commentary regarding politics, business, culture, and religion on a local basis here in Orange County, statewide in California, nationally throughout the United States, and also internationally, especially with respect to Vietnam and Southeast Asia. Please join in and have a wonderful time with us.
Michelle Steele ủng hộ chính sách giảm thuế của Tổng thống Trump. Derek Trần chống Tổng thống Trump giảm thuế cho giới tiểu thư. Michelle Steele ủng hộ ông Trump đánh thuế vào hàng Trung Quốc. Derek Trần không ủng hộ ông Trump đánh thuế vào hàng China. Michelle Steele ủng hộ thụ thai nhân tạo để giúp phụ nữ sinh con. Derek Trần ủng hộ phá thai tùy tiện và không giới hạn. Tái tín nhiệm dân biểu Michelle Steele để nước Mỹ vĩ đại trở lại.
I am Michelle Steele, candidate for Congress, and I approve this message.
Họ không ngừng phá hủy những quyền lợi của ta, đặt lệnh cấm phá thai toàn quốc mà không có ngoại lệ, đặt kế hoạch hút sống chế độ an sinh xã hội cùng Medicare của ta. Những chính sách sẽ khiến ta lùi nhiều thế hệ, nhưng Kamala Harris sẽ không lùi bước. Kamala sẽ bảo vệ quyền lựa chọn của phụ nữ. và bảo vệ chế độ an sinh xã hội của Medicare để ta có thể ngẩng cao đầu nghỉ hưu. Kamala Harris làm việc cho ta, bà đã luôn phục vụ ta.
Cuộc bầu cử ngày 5 tháng 11 rất quan trọng. Chúng ta chỉ có một lựa chọn duy nhất là Thượng nghị sĩ Janet Nguyễn, một người con của chiến sĩ Việt Nam Cộng Hòa, tranh đấu phục vụ cho cộng đồng người Việt suốt 20 năm qua. Nếu không giành chiến thắng lần này, chúng ta sẽ mất đi những thành quả hơn 49 năm xây dựng một cộng đồng lớn mạnh với đạo luật tưởng nhớ tháng Tư đen, chương trình giảng dạy lịch sử chiến tranh Việt Nam, văn phòng phục vụ cộng đồng, hội trợ y tế miễn phí. Hãy giữ tiếng nói của người Việt tại Hội đồng Giám sát quận Cam. Thượng nghị sĩ Janet Nguyễn sẽ tiếp tục tranh đấu cho cộng đồng như bảo vệ nhân quyền tại Việt Nam, chống tham nhũng, chống tăng thuế, chống lạm phát, tăng việc làm, hỗ trợ cơ sở thương mại, giải quyết vấn đề housing và homeless, mở lại văn phòng phục vụ cộng đồng, xây dựng trung tâm văn hóa. Hãy dồn phiếu cho Thượng nghị sĩ Janet Nguyễn vào giám sát viên để tiếp tục những việc dở dang, bài trừ tệ nạn bè phái và bảo vệ đồng tiền thuế của người dân. Thượng nghị sĩ Janet Nguyễn, giám sát viên địa hạt 1, cột số 2.
When I was District Attorney of San Francisco, my mother was diagnosed with cancer, and I spent many hours with her at the hospital. Fortunately, however, I could take the time I needed to be with my mother, but far too many others cannot.
Đó là lý do Kamala Harris đang chiến đấu để nghỉ phép có lương để chăm sóc cho gia đình. Trẻ con được chăm sóc với chi phí hợp lý và được chăm sóc tại nhà.
Everyone should be able to care for the people they love.
Được phục vụ trong quân đội là niềm tự hào lớn đối với luật sư Derek Trần, sinh ra và lớn lên tại đây, nhưng ông luôn hãnh diện về nguồn gốc hiền nhân tị nạn cộng sản của gia đình ông. Tại Quốc hội, ông sẽ tranh đấu để tăng ngân sách cho Đề hạt 45, bảo đảm an ninh công cộng, phát triển nền kinh tế, quyết tâm bảo vệ an sinh xã hội và Medicare, gác bỏ quan điểm chính trị riêng để phục vụ và phát triển đất nước. Xin quý đồng hương bầu cho luật sư Derek Trần vào chức vụ dân biểu liên bang Đề hạt 45. Xin cảm ơn quý đồng hương.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You're in the strike zone. This is VBS Broadcasting System. My name is Bill Jensen. We're going to continue with North Carolina and some of the hurricane victims and activities out there. Samaritan's Purse is out there with osmosis water systems doing their best to fill a bladder-operated system that provides pressure and clean water from lake water to the best of their ability so that water doesn't have to be hauled in. The Red Cross is on site distributing food. From some of the pictures, trucks have been distributed. The roads still need to be cleared in some places to get in. The World Health Company is in distributing food as well, and in that they have water available. That means that some of these folks are getting meals after 3 weeks of basically having to scavenge and be on their own. Again, the reports seem to come in that the military response was a failure. Not that it was the military's response, but that the FEMA response was a failure. There were military aircraft in the area that have been spotted doing recon and probably helping out where they could. FEMA is the most financially deprived, unorganized situation that I think we've seen in a long time. And we covered that in one of the last segments. In Colorado, the citizens are going to have a chance to vote on the Colorado Chief Justice of the Supreme Court that was one of the many that voted to remove Trump from the ballot. Now, I would say this is going to be a pretty good test of how Colorado really leans. Is it completely liberal and as it slid off the edge of the earth? Or when Donald Trump is elected, will the Colorado Chief Justice, Monica Marquez, be looking for a new job? You don't throw the President of the United States off of a ballot. If you do, then you didn't do your homework in law school when it came to the Constitution of the United States. In other news, Mike Lindell has reported that 3.5 years worth of information and investigations are now being passed to Elon Musk. And now Elon Musk is reposting some of that information that's been digested, and it is a lot to digest, I have no doubt. But to put it in the words of another commentator earlier, an economist, of all the billionaires that have stepped forward and put millions and millions and hundreds of millions of dollars behind the Democrats, the Republicans now have a billionaire champion, and I think that I agree. Our billionaire is better than their billionaire as Republican conservatives go. Elon Musk, you deserve a presidential citation, I swear to God. If you can put the information that Mike Lindell has out and all of us add up what happened on 2,000 Mules, the new United States Attorney General that will be sworn in will only have to follow the breadcrumb trail that they have been given, and they should be able to geofence every cell number and every name of every person that needs to be arrested and go to jail for treason. The fact that this information was put together by Mike Lindell and that he spent his life savings in accomplishing this for the United States citizens, and that we have such a corrupt United States Attorney General that all of that information would be ignored, has got to have former FBI and U.S. Attorney Generals rolling over in their graves. This is not just incompetence, it is deliberate, it is treasonous, and it is deserving of justice when that day comes. And those people should be in jail much longer, but under the same circumstances that you see them putting Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon in jail. Lindell also has something called the Election Crime Bureau, and that information is being forwarded over to Elon Musk. Also, it's a collection of data on voter fraud and the technical aspects of how it was committed and who was responsible. Additionally, Vocal.com has been set up. It is a real-time election monitoring system for your area. Spelled VOCL.com. VOCL.com. Vocal.com. You can take that information, pull it up on the web, and see how and who or what is happening in the voting area, where you go to vote in your area, and how the results are turning in your area. So good for you, Mike Lindell. Thank you, you're a patriot. Moving along to the United Kingdom, Trump accuses the UK Labour Party of interference. The Labour Party campaign has been helping Harris in the election, and well, that constitutes with election interference by a foreign national. An electric vehicle company named Wolfspeed, a chip maker, is to receive a $750 million CHIPS grant from the U.S. government. Now, we don't make enough of any chips in this country, mostly in Taiwan, and the chip manufacturing is such a delicate process, so high-tech, that China has to even consider that if they invade Taiwan, and for any reason, those chip manufacturing plants are destroyed as a method of denying resources to China on entry, it would not only set back the United States and the world, it would set back China. Everybody is dependent upon these chips, from washing machines to electric vehicles to airplanes. There isn't anything that doesn't have electrical components in it anymore. So you can see how vulnerable everybody would be if a centralized factory and manufacturing setup was destroyed or deliberately destroyed in order to deny access. So for the United States to put $750 million into a chip grant to get a U.S. Manufacturer on its feet, I hope there are 10 more of them before the end of the next few years. I believe that Donald Trump recognizes that. I think that he would move to initiate that process. This was a bipartisan vote to bring semiconductor industry back to the United States and make sure that the manufacturing can establish itself here as a matter of, I'm sure, national security. And ladies and gentlemen, that brings up another issue with regard to mining and minerals in the United States on federal lands, something that the environmental terrorists have managed to lock us away from. Every American has a right to go onto federal land to prospect. Now, you can prospect for gold, which is what you've always seen on TV, and you can prospect for silver. But of all the rest of the important elements, whether it's aluminum, whether it is copper, or some of the other high-tech rare earths, molybdenum, you are allowed as a U.S. citizen to go and prospect. If you find a mineral-rich environment, you're allowed to go and stake a claim. And then you're allowed to take that claim and begin the discovery and extraction process. And as you practice the extraction process, it then needs a place to go for production. And for production, it goes to manufacturing. If you wake up one day and the Science and Technology Committee in the United States Senate tells you that we have a problem, it's because of the testimony of people like the Department of Defense and other manufacturers testifying to the fact that we are 88% dependent upon China for this particular rare earth or metal. We are 92% dependent upon China for this particular rare earth or metal. When that kind of red alert goes off and you turn around and you say, well, what happened? Well, you could say labor was cheaper in China, so those minerals and metals were harvested from foreign countries, even South America, Central America. But in fact, through a level of environmental terrorism in the United States, a situation has been created for mining in the USA that says there is no financial certainty. Now, financial certainty means that the banks can loan you money to go do a mining operation and they're going to be paid back. Where there is zero financial certainty, it is because a bank could have invested in you as a mining operation to go and prospect for copper. Just take a simple thing like copper. You're in the middle of your mining operation and some environmental terrorist group comes along and says, oh, you have an endangered species. You're polluting the water. You're polluting the air. You're contributing to global climate issues. We're suing you. We've got an injunction. We're going to shut you down. Pending. All of a sudden, the bank doesn't get their payments because you've had to stop production because the system is now incorporating something called legal plundering. These environmental terrorists have now used the court system to lock up your mining operation and declare that you're somehow a threat, and therefore you must be stopped immediately, thus ending the payments to the bank. What do the banks do in effect? The banks turn around and say, guess what? We are not loaning on mines in the United States because there is no financial certainty that we will be paid back. So once again, environmental terrorism strikes up a mark and says, job well done. We have managed to put mining out of business in the United States. So it's no surprise when you get the Science and Technology Committee in the United States Senate and they say we are 92% dependent upon China. Have you ever seen how some of these products are mined in China? The carbon footprint is a joke. Compared to what we do in the United States when we mine, we're probably the cleanest people on the planet to do anything with the land. China, you've got to be kidding me. They have destroyed lakes and rivers and not cared, to the point now that really the Chinese government has had to stop certain industries from doing any more business because they have destroyed on a large scale their water, their land. And a perfect example is when China refused to allow any more plastic products into China, and the dirty plastics were being put into cargo containers, sent over to China, cleaned up, chemically reconstituted and turned back into plastic bottles or whatever the case might be. That shipping of dirty plastic to China got way out of control, way too fast, and now the government has stopped it. So all of a sudden in Tijuana, Mexico, you'll see that we now have plastic wash plants set up and trying to clean that plastic as fast as they can. Coming back to the mining and minerals in the United States, I believe that when Donald Trump was president last time, we were about to see the Bureau of Land Management and the Department of Interior work to allow citizens to start to reopen federal lands for mining. This is critical to the United States national security. When the Department of Defense shows up at a Senate meeting and says, if you don't reopen the mining and manufacturing of these metals in the United States, or find a resource where we can get our hands on it, you are not going to be building any more aircraft, you are not going to be building any more ships or missile systems or anything else. These rare earths and metals are critical to everything that we do on a day-to-day basis in life, but also to our military systems. So, ladies and gentlemen, you want to watch very closely what happens with the leveling of the playfield, because the environmental terrorism has gone way too far out of reach, and we need to fix it. We need to bring it back. We need to bring the pendulum back to center, and we need to be allowed to go get these minerals from our own soils, including oil, ladies and gentlemen. Oil, oil, oil. That's your gasoline, that's your energy, that's your electricity. Ladies and gentlemen, you're in the strike zone. My name is Bill Jensen, and this is the VBS Broadcasting System Live. Ladies and gentlemen, VBS Television Network is pleased to announce a new and exciting English language daily live news program which will commence on November the 1st, 2024, if not sooner. The programs will broadcast live each weekday, Monday through Friday at prime time from 6 p.m. to midnight from VBS Studios located in Orange County, California. VBS broadcasts through 12 connected digital systems: YouTube, Facebook, Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon TV, Sony Smart TV, LG Smart TV, Samsung Smart TV, Google Play, Apple Store, and VBSTelevision.com. VBS also broadcasts throughout the entire state of California through 3 free-to-air channels, including KJLA 57.6 in Southern California, KSCZ 16.14 in San Jose, and KMMC 30.6 in San Francisco. VBS broadcasts 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. We look forward to bring you important, timely news coverage and commentary regarding politics, business, culture, and religion on a local basis here in Orange County, statewide in California, nationally throughout the United States, and also internationally, especially with respect to Vietnam and Southeast Asia. Please join in and have a wonderful time with us.
Họ không ngừng phá hủy những quyền lợi của ta, đặt lệnh cấm phá thai toàn quốc mà không có ngoại lệ, đặt kế hoạch hút sống chế độ an sinh xã hội cùng Medicare của ta. Những chính sách sẽ khiến ta lùi nhiều thế hệ, nhưng Kamala Harris sẽ không lùi bước. Kamala sẽ bảo vệ quyền lựa chọn của phụ nữ và bảo vệ chế độ an sinh xã hội của Medicare để ta có thể ngẩng cao đầu nghỉ hưu. Kamala Harris làm việc cho ta, bà đã luôn phục vụ ta.
Được phục vụ trong quân đội là niềm tự hào lớn đối với luật sư Derek Trần. Sinh ra và lớn lên tại đây, nhưng ông luôn hãnh diện về nguồn gốc thiện nhân tị nạn cộng sản của gia đình ông. Tại Quốc hội, ông sẽ tranh đấu để tăng ngân sách cho Đề hạt 45, bảo đảm an ninh công cộng, phát triển nền kinh tế, quyết tâm bảo vệ an sinh xã hội và Medicare, gác bỏ quan điểm chính trị riêng để phục vụ và phát triển đất nước. Xin quý đồng hương bầu cho luật sư Derek Trần vào chức vụ dân biểu liên bang Đề hạt 45. Xin cảm ơn quý đồng hương.
I will make it a top priority to bring down costs for all Americans.
Kế hoạch của bà sẽ đối đầu với kỹ nghệ dầu mỏ và những công ty dược phẩm lấy tiền của chúng ta, trừng phạt các công ty lớn đặt giá cả quá mức và bắt các tỷ phú phải trả tương xứng với phần của họ.
Donald Trump fights for billionaires and large corporations. I will fight to give money back to working and middle class Americans.
May mắn đêm nay tâm hồn tỏa sáng vui tươi. Hãy chia sẻ niềm vui nào, ôi vận may ngập tràn lên. Lucky you, lucky me, lucky everybody. Lucky me, lucky you, lucky me, a great.
Michelle Steele ủng hộ chính sách giảm thuế của Tổng thống Trump. Derek Trần chống Tổng thống Trump giảm thuế cho giới tiểu thư. Michelle Steele ủng hộ ông Trump đánh thuế vào hàng Trung Quốc. Derek Trần không ủng hộ ông Trump đánh thuế vào hàng China. Michelle Steele ủng hộ thụ thai nhân tạo để giúp phụ nữ sinh con. Derek Trần ủng hộ phá thai tùy tiện và không giới hạn. Tái tín nhiệm dân biểu Michelle Steele để nước Mỹ vĩ đại trở lại.
I am Michelle Steele, candidate for Congress, and I approve this message.
Không muốn thấy tiền Social Security của mình bị trừ hàng tháng vì lệ phí Medicare, Asiva có một chương trình để quý vị không cần phải trả 174 đồng 70 cent mỗi tháng cho Medicare phần B. Gọi 1866 610 0655 để tham khảo.
Michelle Steele vinh danh.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Strike Zone. My name is Bill Jensen, and you're watching VBS News Broadcasting System. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to talk about Peoria, Arizona. J.D. Vance was there, said that in the course of his conversations with everyone in the crowd that groceries were up 25%. Oil, in some cases, as he's touring the West, is up 30 to 35 to 40%. Millions of people have been granted legal status, and that includes the cause and effect. Because those were illegal immigrants that came across the border, they were given legal status enough that they're receiving subsidized rent, they're inundating our schools, and that illegal, non-English speaking person is now taking time away from your children because the teachers can't focus on teaching your kids where they should be at the grade and the level that they're learning, but rather they're having their time taken away to deal with kids that don't even speak English that are being thrown into their classes. And they're not even prepared for the grade level material that's being presented to them. This, ladies and gentlemen, hurts America in the long run. In the long run. You're talking about a generation of kids that are going to have a very big speed bump in their life because they didn't get the attention that they needed in the first or the second or the third grade. So it's their reading and their math skills that are potentially affected. So he really did hit a nerve with the crowd in the course of that observation. Native American communities are hit hard by inflation, food, gas, energy, like all of us, and housing. So Native Americans don't agree with open borders either. And that seems to be the shift where everybody's turning. The Hispanic community has turned to Trump because they don't believe in open borders. And that includes the people that applied for their residency here legally. And they're watching these people come in and get subsidized housing, schools for the kids, an EBT card to go buy groceries. And yet you or me or anybody that we know that needs welfare and assistance can hardly get any help at all. That hit a nerve with the crowd too, because it wasn't just Hispanics, it was the black community also that was voicing the same opinions. And in the Native American community, all of us, despite what color we might be, we are in an income bracket where we have jobs. And if those jobs are taken by anybody at any level, then we as Americans are left out. Now, we're unemployed because illegal aliens have taken our jobs. And the bad apples are killing us on the highway, smuggling drugs that are killing our kids. So at what point do we say, this is not a racist issue, stop the BS, Democrats, close the border because that invasion is treason? You are allowing an invasion into our country. You are affecting our schools, our medical systems, our health, our ability to economically survive. So we're entitled as Americans to do one thing in the Constitution of the United States if you read closely. And I will pull that Constitution out one of these days. Most people that know me, we will get down into the weeds and I will read that part of the Constitution that says you don't have a responsibility to throw off tyranny. You have an obligation to throw off tyranny in that Constitution. Read it closely, ladies and gentlemen, because it's going to be one of the focus points for us in the future. One of the other things that the Republicans don't seem to believe in, Trump or anybody else that's involved, is censoring people. It is, again, Zuckerberg who just admitted that the government coerced him into censoring everything, Facebook, etc., and cooperating with them to give them your personal and private information because they wanted to declare that you might be a domestic terrorist at some point. The Democrats are going to censor you as opposed to silencing, not as opposed to, they're going to censor you and silence you because you are their opposition. We tend to want to be the people that come out and debate the issue to prove that you are either right or you are wrong, or I have made a mistake and I need to recalibrate what I'm thinking. You have to be able to defend your argument. The Democrats can't defend their argument. They're not going to try to defend their argument. They are going to censor you. They're going to arrest you. They're going to throw you in jail like they did January 6ers and leave you to rot 3 years later. 3 years later, you're in jail and you haven't been arraigned, you haven't been charged, and you call this the United States? The people who did that to the January 6ers, who are singing the national anthem in jail, they ought to have a right to go to the warden, to go to the guard, to go to the law enforcement that put them in jail and are detaining them. And they should have a right to see those people put in jail, prosecuted. And I'm not talking for 3 years. You ought to get double or treble damages, right? You ought to get at least triple. Whoever these people are that participated in locking them up, and I mean the judges that did this, and the prosecutors that participated in it, each one of them should see jail time because they knew it was wrong. They took an oath when they took their jobs. That judge held up his hand and said he would defend this country from enemies both foreign and domestic. And when he broke that rule and he didn't arraign those people and he left them as political prisoners in jail, he or she, then that judge should pay that price. They shouldn't be above the law and they shouldn't be exempt. As we try to bring back American manufacturing, whether it's semiconductors, chip manufacturing, Secretary Raimondo and Kamala Harris will only support your business if you're on their team. They will withhold your government funding and they'll hold those funds hostage if you can get them at all. If they find out you're a conservative Republican, you're not donating to the Democrats, and that you're donating to the Republicans. And I can give you an example of this. The city where I live put together a grant. They scored the highest score that you could score to get a grant. Let's call it a scale of 1 to 10. Let's say that that city was an 8.99 on the scale. The other people who did receive the grant had a lesser score. They didn't even qualify for the grant the way our city did in Hesperia, California. But the Democrats got the grant money anyway. When you see that kind of political corruption, you know why $1.7 trillion omnibuses were turned into $1.5 billion community funding for infrastructure, sewer, water, power, roads, etc. And then you see how the Democrats give the money to other Democrats. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a level of corruption that you see in third world countries, and you're witnessing it here on a wholesale scale. It is one of the reasons that I'm running for Hesperia City Council in the city of Hesperia right now, is to work with the other elected officials that understand that this level of corruption exists, not just at a city level with the way some people would think that somebody's taking money because they're on a city council. That's not so easy to do, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. But yet the scandal and the real deliberate distribution of money on a large scale is from the congressional purse to the states, and from the states to the counties, and from the counties to the cities. And in the course of that, those people who have earmarked that funding through their political party have got those approvals from their state assemblies and their senates for the distribution of those funds. Or maybe those funds are earmarked for the California Air Resources Board, as they need more funding to demand battery-operated trains. Battery-operated trains, they don't exist. And they are currently holding up a $1.5 billion investment in Southern California for a major 4,600-acre rail freight yard in Barstow, California. The only other thing that I can give you that is equal in comparison to that level of corruption, extortion, is the California Joshua Tree. Did you know that it could cost you up to $24,000 to transplant one Joshua tree? But because Governor Newsom has declared that there's a housing shortage, we're somehow locally allowed to go out and kill 3 Joshua trees just to scrape it off and put a house. We don't even have the requirement to save it, turn it, just clear that land for a house. Most of us who have been good stewards of the desert for years and years, a lifetime, decades, we took care of the trees. We figured out how to transplant them. We picked them up, we moved them, we took care of them. We knew exactly what to do. The state has turned it into a racket. And we happen to know that we have people who have paid in the millions of dollars. But this isn't where the extortion ends with the state of California trying to be the permitting agency out of Sacramento with California Fish and Wildlife. Thank God the governor, to give him some credit, brought at least one good solid person to that board. And that board made at least one good decision not to turn the Joshua tree into an endangered species. We have thousands of new growth Joshua everywhere. So it is not an endangered species, and they had to reverse that policy. Even though they went down that road and staff told them not to make it an endangered species, they tried. But then it got reversed and it went back to the situation where we now have to clear commercial and industrial property through Sacramento, which can cost you 4 to 6 months to get a permit. In the course of that permit and process, you will pay for light studies, noise studies, cultural studies, a litany of things that will cost you between $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 just for the study. Then you're going to pay to have that tree observed for 5 years, whether it's living or dying, and pay a biologist to turn a report in annually. And what the environmental terrorism has created is a situation where nobody's going to develop because of the expense and the time and the energy and the absolute ridiculous efforts that are required to try to save a tree. We can transplant a tree in 15 minutes for $2,500. It does not take $24,000 to transplant a Joshua tree and wait 4 to 6 to 7 months to get a permit. But that isn't where the environmental terrorism ends. After you do get your permit and you're ready to go to work and transplant your trees, or if the dead trees need to be cleared, another group of environmental terrorists, which we will name names at some point here, get ready, will come in and tell you that unless you pay us $200,000, $300,000, $500,000, $600,000 or more, and there's more than one group filing against you, they'll tell you, if you don't agree to pay this blackmail money, extortion money, whatever you want to call it, then you are going to get sued because, well, we are not going to necessarily agree with your light study, your noise study, your cultural study. We're going to find something wrong and we're going to file on it. We'll tie you up in court for 4 years. you'll be bankrupt before you'll ever build that project. And that is right where the development world caves in, pays the blackmail money to these environmental terrorists, because it's that or face bankruptcy. And it's factored in as a cost. Now, if anything deserved the United States Attorney General to step in over the state Attorney General and use the RICO Act to prosecute those environmental terrorists for racketeering, extortion, embezzlement, the banking institution and their insurance companies should get on board. Because what does it destroy? It destroys the financial certainty. Isn't that what we talked about, where environmentalism ended our mining operations? Whenever the environmental terrorism can destroy financial certainty, money will not be available to build homes, apartments, industrial buildings, commercial buildings, build anything, period. This is why Donald Trump said, if you're going to build a road or a highway, you need to be able to get a permit. That permit needs to be issued within 6 months, a year, 90 days, or otherwise you should be allowed to go ahead and build and move forward. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to tear into these subjects deeper each time as we start to spin up in this and put certain people and agencies in the strike zone. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bill Jensen. You are in the strike zone, and this is VBS News, and we're going to keep bringing it to you. So hang on. It's going to be a bumpy ride, but with a seatbelt, you're going to have a lot of fun. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, VBS Television Network is pleased to announce a new and exciting English language daily live news program which will commence on November the 1st, 2024, if not sooner. The programs will broadcast live each weekday, Monday through Friday at prime time from 6 p.m. to midnight from VBS Studios located in Orange County, California. VBS broadcasts through 12 connected digital systems: YouTube, Facebook, Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon TV, Sony Smart TV, LG Smart TV, Samsung Smart TV, Google Play, Apple Store, and VBSTelevision.com. VBS also broadcasts throughout the entire state of California through 3 free-to-air channels, including